Hi, everybody. I'm Gwen Eiffel. Welcome to the Washington Week Webcast Extra, where we pick up where we left off on the weekly broadcast. I'm joined around the table by Peter Baker of the New York Times, Joan Biskupic of Reuters, Doyle McManus of the Los Angeles Times, and Alex Wayne of Bloomberg News. One undercovered aspect of the health care debate has been what happens to same-sex spouses under the law. It turns out that was not entirely clear until earlier this month. Alex?
Yeah, in February, a same-sex couple, two men in Ohio, tried to sign up for a family plan, a plan that covered them and their daughter, and they were denied by an insurer on the exchange in Ohio. So rather than just sign up for individual policies, they decided to sue. They sued Ohio, and they sued the federal government and said our rights are being violated because we are married. It's recognized by parts of the federal government at least, and we want to sign up for a family plan. The government responded, the federal government responded by changing the policy midstream. They clarified that if any insurer offers family policies to opposite-sex couples, they also have to offer them to same-sex couples. And
that is something that private insurance companies do routinely, or is it something which has been a subject of debate?
It's been debatable, but in a lot of employer-sponsored plans, the coverage you get at work, a lot of those plans cover domestic partners or married couples of the same sex. So it's not been a controversy in employer-sponsored insurance. Gay advocates say, why should it be a controversy in individual
insurance? So they just had to clear it up.
Yeah.
Joan, I want to ask you something about that's been hanging fire over the Supreme Court, and we keep waiting every week. Is this the week they're going to rule on the big campaign finance case, and it hasn't happened yet? What's going on?
No, you're talking about McCutcheon versus Federal Election Commission.
Of course, that's what I'm talking
about. Yeah. Argued on it October 8th at 10 a.m. That one?
Yeah, that one.
Yes. It's not unusual for a hot case like that, and the kind of child of Citizens United, our big campaign finance case from 2010, to take longer. I mean, I don't think we're going to have as hot of an opinion coming out of that one as we had in Citizens United, which involved expenditures by corporations and has just lingered, hung over this Supreme Court. The McCutcheon case involves contributions by individuals, and it's a little bit of an easier case, but because it's such a hot topic, I think they're still going back and forth. I actually wouldn't be surprised, Gwen, if we didn't get it until April or May.
Oh, great.
But do you want me to tell you about the protester in court?
Well, I was going to ask you about that, because wasn't this the case where not only was there a protester in the court, but someone had a video camera?
Oh, nothing like that happens at the Supreme Court. Let me just tell you that if anybody ever spills their water, we write about it. You know, that's how nothing big ever happens there in terms of disruptions. And in the middle of a patent case that I was sitting there for in February, a man stood up in the back and started protesting the Citizens United ruling of 2010, saying corporations are not people. We should have, the Supreme Court was wrong in Citizens United. And not only did this disruption occur, and it took the court police a while to wrestle him out of there, but he had been filmed by two of his colleagues there. We think it might have been in a pen. We're not sure, because, you have to go through metal detectors. Right. And then he puts it on YouTube, which, of course, drives this court nuts, because we don't have cameras in the court. We don't have still photography.
Did the justices know what YouTube is?
Well, it was pointed out to them pretty quickly. Yes, they all know now. And so now they've got extra screening at the Supreme Court when we come in. Our pens are checked and everything, yes.
Oh, no kidding.
This was a really big deal. And it's all because of campaign finance.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Now that's why you have to pay attention. Okay, let's go to foreign policy for a minute. I want to start with Peter, because we're journalists around this table. And an interesting sidelight, the president spent Friday in Saudi Arabia trying to mend some frayed relationships. But even before he got there was a little bit of a controversy about a Washington-based reporter for the Jerusalem Post who was not allowed in.
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, Michael Wilner is a Washington bureau chief for the Jerusalem Post, and he signed up just like other Washington and White House reporters for the trip. He sent in all of his forms and all that kind of stuff. And the Saudis made him the only reporter signed up by the White House to be rejected for a visa. They didn't say why, but you can obviously draw your own inference. Now, Michael's actually not an Israeli citizen, never applied to be an Israeli citizen. He's an American citizen. He happens to be Jewish. But this, caused the White House to protest, caused the White House Correspondents Association to protest, and I think it sort of raised, a point of free speech. If the President of the United States wants to travel with his press corps someplace that doesn't share our values on free expression and free press, what are the rules? And the truth is, I've covered White Houses going back to '96 and Doyle longer. I don't remember, ever having a reporter rejected by a host government when the president comes into town.
Okay, and one more question for you, sir. You wrote a column this week about what would happen if Ukraine had occurred on a Republican president's watch, which is really interesting because, as you know, there's been much discussion about whether this president is weak and whether he should have been more forceful. And what did you discover?
That was really kind of a way in to describe the kind of amazing debate that's going on in the Republican Party over foreign policy right now. And it's, there have been debates over foreign policy among Republicans before, but this really has turned into a kind of a four-way brawl. It's not just the old gentlemanly, Brent Scowcroft, John McCain kind of thing. So you've got about four different places here. You have the big addition, of course, is Rand Paul, the libertarian. Who incidentally had a debate with his own father, Ron Paul, the super libertarian. Ron Paul, to take one end of it, Ron Paul said, "What do we care about Ukraine? That's just some place across the globe. Who cares what flag is flying there?" Rand Paul wouldn't go that far, but he certainly did not want to intervene militarily. And then you had John McCain and others of his stripe, Lindsey Graham, Marco Rubio from Florida, saying, we ought to be giving military aid to the Ukrainian government. This administration isn't doing enough. And in the middle, you had a number of characters like Bob Corker of Tennessee and Ted Cruz of Texas, who took the opportunity to say, I'm not Rand Paul and I'm not John McCain. I'm where Ronald Reagan would have been. And that sort of was a clue. And
Ronald Reagan was against the International Monetary Fund?
Well, yeah. But that was sort of a clue that some of these people are popping off because they're thinking about running for president.
Yeah.
But what we now have is a big spectrum. And, in fact, if President Obama wanted to look for people on the Republican side in the Senate who agree with his very cautious approach and not sending military aid to Ukraine, he can now find them, including, by and large, Bob Corker, the senior Republican on the Foreign Relations Committee.
Who's not running for president.
Who's not running for president, which is a refreshing change.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Stay online and see what else our panelists are seeing in our daily Washington Week Essential Reads. I also weigh in on my weekly blog on the topic, the tyranny of high expectations. I can say that word, whether you're the president or the Pope. All that's at pbs.org/Washington Week, and we'll see you next time on the Washington Week Webcast Extra.